What's good, everybody? We are back for another interview with Qualified. Man, this is. I feel like I've been saying this about everybody, but this is family as well. This is definitely my sister. You're looking at the next Carrie Champion, the next Taylor Rooks, the next big name in sports journalism. Period. I'm gonna let her go ahead and introduce herself and let y'all know who she is.
Okay. Well, hello, qualified fans. My name is Jalyn Johnson, for those that do not know who I am. I graduated from Mizzou in December of 2018 with a bachelor's in sports broadcast journalism from the School of Journalism in
Indeed.
the and right now, I am a graduate assistant at Mississippi State with the athletics department, and I'm getting my master's in sports administration.
See, told you, next big thing. We gonna get to Mizzou where we met and all that, and how we came to be so close. But first question I gotta ask everybody is where the journey begins. When did you fall in love just with sports in general, either as a fan, whether you were playing? Like, when did you realize you had a love for sports?
I guess sports have kind of always been a part of my life. We are a very sports family. Like ESPN was always on in my house when I was younger. Sundays were football. Like once we got home from church, like my dad was watching football. So that's always been kind of ingrained in me. I cheered starting in 6th grade and then cheered all the way up through my senior year of high school. And then once I got to high school, I played volleyball for all 4 years. So sports have just always kind of been a part of my life.
Was you a killer though? Was you a killer on the volleyball court?
Yes, I played. So my freshman year of high school, okay. So here's the thing: I started playing volleyball freshman year of high school. Like I had never played before ever, because my dad was just like, "We need to use your height for something." Like, so fair enough. So I started playing volleyball, and I was horrible at it. I made JV. I don't know how at my high school. And so I played outside, and then once I got to varsity my sophomore year, I played middle for a little bit, and I played outside hitter. So yes, I was hitting. I'm back row defensive specialist. More power to y'all because that's not my speed at all.
It's okay. That's fine. So we get to Mizzou, and this is where, of course, like me and you meet. But of course, you come to Mizzou to do sports broadcast journalism. Where did you find your love for journalism? And then was there always a connection to sports? Like, was it always natural? Or was it like a love for sports first, and then journalism became like a additional thing? Were they separate? Like, what did that look like?
Well, in high school, I've always been really big on English. I really liked lit, and so that was my thing. So I really liked to write. My mom actually sent me a picture from a long time ago when I was in like elementary school of me interviewing some lady for our little school paper. So I think I've always just been into writing and like storytelling. And so in high school, once I decided that that's kind of what I wanted to do, and I had a really great college counselor and really great counselors at my high school, and they just, told me like to pair my passions. So writing and sports were always my passions. I love, sports. NBA is my jam. So, that was always my thing. So when I found out that I could pair those two things together, but that also the best school in the nation for that was right down the highway from me, since I'm from the greatest city on earth, St. Louis, Missouri. Come on. Don't fight me. Fight me.
Look, you know me at Mizzou. I learned, like, look, I rep my set, but when it comes to repping cities, I leave it where it's at. I'm outnumbered. It's fine.
So once I realized that, it was just kind of a match made in heaven kind of thing. So I just decided that was what I wanted to do, and I fell in love with it every step of the way, and decided that, that was what I was gonna be able to do. And it's one of those things. It's like I can get paid for that. Like I can get paid to watch sports and like talk. So at that point I was sold, and the more that I got into it and realized how much I really love storytelling and like how much the story behind jersey numbers mattered to me. So it just fell into place after that.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I know for me, I didn't really. There was a time where I didn't think I could fuse the two passions. I think sometimes like when you're trying to play a sport, people don't tell you like if that sport either doesn't work out or people don't really give you a backup plan or tell you to have it. So for me, there were always people around me saying like, hey, like you definitely have other skills. Like I know you love playing, but if you can't, you can still be attached to the game. Like my mom always said that. She was like, even if you don't play, like I can see you coaching, doing something. You're not gonna be able to stay away from the game. I think it's important for people to know that it's not meant for everybody to play. And you not playing doesn't mean you can't have an impact on players or just an impact on whatever sport, in general. So I feel like that's extremely important. That's why, I ended up changing my major. I found out I wanted to tell stories too. And for me, journalism just wasn't the best route for me to do so. Like platforms like this more so,
Yeah.
are my steez, I would say. But
That's for sure.
Right. So, so we're at Mizzou, you're at the #1 journalism school in the country. Talk about just how that motivated you to continue to hone your craft and be the best that you could be here. And then in that process, what did you learn about sports journalism and sports reporting that has kind of shaped your perspective on what you want your career to look like?
The J school at first did not motivate me. The J school was very scary to me. I wasn't a direct admit into the J school, so I was dreading like having to apply to get into that whole process. I wasn't super like, I'm at the #1 journalism school. Like it was more of a daunting thing for me. So it was just, there were a lot of tears that went through those years in the J school, and there was a lot of doubt, and there was a lot of looking around me and wondering if that was where I was supposed to be and how I was going to make my path. Because one thing that I will say, as much as I love the J school, the world around us is evolving. And I think at sometimes during my time there were, moments where I felt like there wasn't a path for what I wanted to do. There wasn't a path for, it was kind of either you were going, the local news or sports route. And then that's kind of the route that you had to take. And that's not a fault of anybody's. That's usually kind of how it works. Usually you start in local sports, like even Jamel Hill started local, Chris Budden started local. A lot of people start local and have to work their way up to network or have to work their way up to, a university. And I knew that's not what I wanted to do. And it wasn't honestly until, I guess my first semester of senior year, that Casey Phillips, she's the sideline reporter for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, came, and she's a J school grad. And she came and talked to our class about how when she was graduating, she knew that she didn't want to do local sports. Like she did not want to be, in local sports. She wanted to do network. She wanted to be with a team. And so she said when she graduated, she didn't apply to any local news jobs or local sports jobs. And she knew that's not what she wanted to do. And she ended up becoming a reporter for the Rams when they were still in St. Louis. And then when they left, she ended up going to the Wizards, and now she's at Tampa Bay. So when she was telling us that, I was like, this is it. I found it. And so I didn't apply to any local sports jobs once I graduated. I didn't have a job right after school, but I knew that if I was to take a job in a local sports, in the station, that I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be my happiest. I don't think my work would be as good. I knew I would be able to do the work, but I knew that it wasn't going to be most beneficial for me and what I want my brand to be. I want to be more, I want to know a lot about a little instead of having to cover a little over a lot of different teams and people. So, when this opportunity for Mississippi State came up, it was literally perfect, and it was cultivated just for me because this position didn't exist before I was here. I kind of like shoved my way in and made it. So it's perfect. I want to be that person when you come off the court that that, oh, that's Jalyn, like I can go talk to her and I feel comfortable talking to her, even if you just lost a game. Like that's my thing, because I'm not just going to talk about, I don't just want to know your stats. I want to know your story. So I think that's a big thing for me. And I knew I would be able to do that in local sports, not saying that you can't, because you definitely can. But it just wasn't the route that I wanted to take. And so I know that what I want my brand to be is to be the go-to person for a department, which is where, God willing, I ended up. And that is where I am now, as the go-to person. When you need an interview done or in-depth sit down something, they're calling me. So yeah, I don't know if I answered that. I kind of went off on a.
Oh no, you're fine. You're right. You're leading right into where I was going next. So I mean, watching you your first year at Mississippi State, like every time you post a video, every time you post an interview, I'm literally looking like, this is Jay. Like, this is her lane. Like, this is what she's supposed to do. Like, you're asking them questions, just walking like, the 94 feet. Like, you're getting those stories out. So just speak to one, like getting to a department and one, it actually being, what you expected it to be and what you thought it would be and what you hoped it would be. And then just speak to like what those experiences have been like this first year, being able to build those relationships with those athletes and have those conversations and feel like the degree you're getting and, the direction you're going in your career truly fits and is truly aligning with what you always wanted.
Yeah. So my story to get here is very, very weird, because I wasn't planning on going to grad school at all. It wasn't on my radar. I had a friend that was coming down here that really wanted to come down here for grad school, and she was like, come with me on my tour. So I'm like, all right, whatever. So I come down here, I go on the little tour, and everybody's asking me like, what do you want to do? Da, 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 da. I'm like, oh, I'm not down, I'm not coming. And at some point during that weekend, I went from saying like, oh, I'm not coming, to sitting in front of the executive director of external affairs, who's over like our creative team, marketing, spirit, all that good jazz. Sat down with her, Leah Beasley, who is a godsend, and I love her so much. But sat down with her and told her that, I really like storytelling, and told her I graduated from Mizzou, all this great jazz. And then she takes me down the hallway, and next thing I know, I'm sitting in front of, the executive AD of athletics, and I didn't know. I was just meeting all these people, and I had no clue, like, who are these people? Why am I walking around? And stayed in contact with them. And actually it was the CFO that I met with, and stayed in contact with them over the next couple months. And next thing I knew, they'd created this position for me. And they were like, you're going to be our storyteller, and you're going to be our digital interview person, and you were going to get some sideline reporting in for you. And it was just so random. Like, I just stayed in contact with them. I showed them my work from Mizzou, and they loved it. And they were like, you can do all this by yourself. You can edit, you can shoot, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, I can. I thought that was just like a regular thing. Like, yeah, I can do all of this.
Right.
And so I stayed in contact with them, and they ended up finding a way to, make this position for me and make it work. And I'm forever grateful to them for getting me down here, because the good thing about there not being anybody before me with this position is that I kind of got to make it my own. So I would just be like, can I do this? And they'd be like, yeah. So I'm like, all right. So a lot of stuff I just happened upon, any like ideas that I had, because I came down here with a notebook full of stuff that I wanted to do. And I just started throwing stuff out, and they were like, yeah, go do it. If you can figure it out, do it. Don't just go. So that's how I ended up with my series, A Walk with the Dogs. I knew that was something that I wanted to do as far as like storytelling and things like that. So that's how I ended up with that, which ended up being really successful. And one day I was like, I want to do post-game interviews for basketball. And so I asked, and they were like, okay. So now I do that for conference play. So it really was me just coming down here and figuring out what I wanted to do and what did I want this position to look like. And it all just kind of fell into place, and it's nothing but a God thing. That's what I always say. Like, he literally opened the door to everything that has happened down here. And, getting to know these athletes has been really fun, because I think they think that I'm older than I am, but it's been fun because when they realize that I'm really not that far removed, they're like, oh, okay, like, we can chit-chat it up. So I've gotten the closest with the basketball team down here, just because they're who I do most of my content with. But everybody down here is just so nice, and like getting to know the athletes on a more personal level and having them like know me aside from being behind a camera or whatever the case may be, and just making them feel comfortable. And I think I've really honed the idea of like making people feel comfortable in talking to me and not making it feel like, oh, I gotta go do this interview, or I gotta go, you know. I tried to just be myself, and like hopefully I'm a nice enough person and I make you smile and I make you laugh to the point where you want to come and talk to me. So that's the path that I'm taking, and I want my brand to be like, that's the person that I want to be. Because you think of very specific things when you think of a Taylor Rooks. You think about how personable she is, and a Maria Taylor, like just how calm and just they just talk. It just doesn't feel like this big pressure thing. It's very, very calm, cool, and collected. Like you feel comfortable, and that's what I've always wanted to do, and what I want my career to look like.
Of course. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned those people that I was going to ask next. Who are your inspirations? Like, who did you see growing up? Who have you seen recently? Who do you even see even kind of getting their notoriety now that you're like, even if that's not the exact lane I want to do, like that's the impact I want to have. Like you were saying, that's the effect I want to have on athletes. So that's the availability I want to give off, that they can feel comfortable. They don't have to feel like I'm only about to ask about stats. So I don't want them to feel like I'm only about to talk to them about the negative. Like I want them to be able to feel like if they was going to be honest with anybody, you know, they can be honest with me.
Yeah. Well, when I was growing up, I don't think I can remember, there wasn't anybody that I really saw that was like, wow, because there weren't a lot of Black women working in the realm. There's a lot more now. There's a lot more women. We have a long way to go, but there weren't that many. So, you know, Robin Roberts, of course, is like OG, like Black woman that I can think of doing sports. As of, you know, recently, people that I'm watching now, of course, we're watching Robin. So it all kind of comes into, you know, full circle. Like I said, Taylor Rooks is doing amazing things with Bleacher Report, and she has created her own path. And like, even if you look at her story, like she was, you know, doing little things and building her brand, and like was going the way of doing what she wanted to do, even if it wasn't at the biggest platform. She was doing exactly what she wanted to do. And so I really admire her for her journey and how far she's come. So I watch all of her stuff. Maria Taylor, if you know me, you know that like Maria Taylor is my, it's like, I love her so much. And she has been a mentor to me. And it's just been very open about, you know, what it takes to, you know, be a woman in this field, and the hardships that come with that. So she's been very open and very helpful to me. But if I could like fuse their lives together, like their jobs,
You'd be set.
I'm set. I will literally be set for life. Like if I could just take both of them and just
Right.
take their jobs and put them together, because I do, as I've been here, I've noticed that I do like more of the sit down, talk to me things. But I do still want to do some sideline, and I want to do some, you know, sideline reporting and do some analysts. And so I want to be able to do it all. Like I want to definitely try my hand in everything, because I feel like I have the skill set to. So I want to definitely try it all. But those are my two right now that I've really been watching. Chris Budden, she's awesome too. She's doing and the thing about Chris Budden is she's a mom too. And I know that that's something that I'm going to have. Like I want to have a family, and she has definitely done the thing where it's like, you can have both, and you can be able to do both. And so I really admire her too. She's also a Mizzou grad. So, you know,
Of course.
I just be looking up to my ladies and figuring out, you know, there's no one way to get it right. So I'm just trying to find what my path is and make that work.
Yeah. And I mean, and you mentioned a really big thing about representation, and you speak about there was a time where there weren't many women, and even as you know that's increased, like you said, there's a long way to go, and there will always be a longer way to go for Black women in sports, especially sports media. I mean, I know one thing I learned in my first year of grad school, not so much learned but had more information on, was the idea that it seems like we're a little bit further because there are more women in general, and because times are more open-minded, for lack of a better phrase, but there's still so much, way to go for Black women specifically and in media specifically. And I think that's important because when you think of either one, being able to tell the stories of Black athletes, but also being able to tell the stories of Black women specifically, and then be a role model to Black women and athletes, that's something we really need to see more of. So speak to what it means for you to be, going through the program you're going for and have the career aspirations that you have, knowing what your story can mean to a little girl who's 9 or 10 right now that may, as they start going through middle school, high school, and college, are seeing you, reach the things that you want to reach. What does that representation mean to you?
That's a big thing, and that's another thing. Part of what my brand statement is like being who I didn't see when I was coming up, and knowing that like there is no one person for a role anymore. Like the days of like, white men, older white men, like being the only people that cover sports are gone. And you have to, not saying that like it's not going to be hard for you, because even at Mizzou, I had some, instances where, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but just like instances where because of me being a woman, I was automatically thought that I didn't understand certain things and that I wasn't going to grasp certain concepts the same way, or that they feel like they had to mansplain things to me. No, I know what that means. Like, I know who's in, the Eastern Conference and the Western. Like, please don't, I don't need that. Like, so it's not perfect and it's not fixed. And you have defended me on multiple occasions and things like that, and been very vocal about that. So it's very important for me in representation, because if I didn't have people like Taylor Rooks, Robin Roberts, Maria Taylor to look up to, then it would be hard for me to say like, can I do this? So that's extremely important for me. And that's why sometimes when I feel like I can't keep going or whatever, I just think about things like that, to know that, if one person, and it doesn't even have to be a little Black girl, it can be any little girl that sees me and says like, oh, I can do that, then that means that I'm doing something right. I've had a little Black girl come up to me here before at a basketball game and like say like, oh, I want to do what you do, kind of thing. And that keeps me pushing. That makes everything worthwhile, no matter what has been going on in the day. Like, that is what I'm here for. And that's like a part of what I want my legacy to be, and what I want people to remember me by. It's just that, I'm fighting for the little Black girls and the little white girls and the little Asian girls and all the little girls that want to do whatever I want to do, because at the end of the day, it's still a man's world right now. And, you got to fight to get through that. So I'm going to keep on fighting.
Indeed. Speaking about fighting, the world has been fighting something for the last few months. COVID, Lil Rona, as I like to refer to her.
Lil Rona.
As I like to refer to her.
You ain't right. Talking about Lil Rona.
Lil Rona, look, man, that's how she acting, Lil Rona, but she shook the world, literally. And so we're all in a time of taking safety precautions on a higher level than we probably, ever have before. And of course it's affected, schooling and things of that nature. So speak to how you guys there have fought it, because I know you had came home for some time and then went back. So just speak to the precautions like you guys are taking, but also the effect that had, and you finishing your first semester online, and just how that kind of, if anything, did it motivate you? Did it make it, more difficult? I mean, obviously it probably did, but just kind of speak to how you worked through the adjustment of like, this is the new normal, and then also understanding that there will not be really a normal, even as we move forward.
Well, it's crazy because everything started shutting down. I was actually with the basketball team at the SEC tournament when they decided to cancel it. We were like on the bus on the way to practice. Because since we were fourth seed, we had a bye, so we didn't play the first day. So we were on the bus on the way to practice, and then the news dropped that the tournament was canceled. So we were all like, well. So turned the bus around, went back to the hotel, and everybody went home. So that was kind of the start of everything. And it was really rough because, one, selfishly for me, like I was like, oh, I'm about to cover the SEC tournament. Like, yes, let's do this. but everybody here was taking really big precautions, kind of just like as far as schooling off rip. Once we got back, everything was kind of, shut down, and I ended up coming home and finishing, like you said, finishing school at home. And our office was kind of like, all right, well, and the big thing down here, like football is big down here, women's basketball is big, but baseball is,
I can imagine.
I can't. Baseball is a different beast down here. So the fact that we didn't have baseball season rocked everybody here, because that's, going to Omaha, going to the playoffs is a big thing down here. So it was really upsetting. I mean, for everybody, and everybody experienced it a different way. And, women's basketball usually makes a really good run, so they didn't get to finish their thing, it's their season. So it was tough. And, it was really hard seeing like student athletes, especially seniors from basketball, not getting a chance to even finish and see what the end of that season was going to look like. So it was really tough to see and to be a part of, and trying to figure out, because a lot of it was, we don't know what comes next, how to plan for what's going on. Because even now, like, we still don't know.
At all. We know nothing.
We know like, it's so up in the air, and we just don't. How do you plan for things like that? So, but our department is taking good precautions. Like, we just got back in the office like this week, so we're back in. Everybody's wearing masks. We are doing the social distancing thing. As has come out, SEC has postponed the start of soccer and volleyball season until September. So everything is so fluid right now, and trying to figure out what's going on. I think the hardest thing for me was just feeling like, dang, like, what am I going to be needed kind of thing, really, because we couldn't do interviews. So that's when we started doing a whole bunch of Zoom interviews. And so it was just adjusting off the fly, like everybody was, and in a different way, because sports, of course, seemed like it was at the forefront because the NBA said no, and then everybody else kind of fell by the wayside.
Yeah.
But, it affected everybody in different ways. And I'm just happy that our leadership has been really good with, relaying information and trying to find out to the best of our ability what the next step is going to be. I'm just really hoping that, football season goes off without a hitch. We're going to see. So that's the next thing. That's what we're waiting on now, is trying to see, like, we're moving like football is happening. So I hope, will y'all please go home and wear y'all masks? Like, go home. Why are y'all at the club?
Man, they got the club. They got the pool.
At the pool. Stop it. Because I'm tired. I want to have football. Okay? It just, like, go home. The club is really not that fun.
It's not.
It's not that fun for y'all to be there.
What can Connie say? Don't we all hate the club? Don't we all hate the club? Didn't she say it best?
She said it. And so during a pandemic, it's not worth it. Go home, Atlanta. Go home, Florida, California, Texas.
They wilding. So
that's where we are now.
Yeah. Okay. So we know we got the NFL coming up, or just football in general coming up, and we haven't heard too much about it not going. So we know about that. But one thing we for sure know is coming back 2 weeks from this date. By the time it aired, it'll probably be back. But 2 weeks from this date, the NBA.
My C's are taking it all. Come on, everybody say it. My C's are taking it all.
Okay, talk about this. How did you become such a big Boston Celtics fan?
So it was really, I started as a bandwagon, okay? I will be honest. I started really getting in tune with the NBA probably like 06, 07. So we all know who was at the top of the pack, okay?
Yeah.
So I said, that's my team, period. That's my team. St. Louis doesn't have one. So I was like, all right, Boston, green, I can work it out. Then we won a championship. I said, oh, bet. Then, we went through some time. So now I don't consider myself a bandwagon Boston fan anymore. At the beginning I was, but now I'm if you know me.
Yeah, you stay true.
I stay true through the rocks and the depths.
But
of
look,
the time.
look, y'all gonna be set for some time because you got one of your boys out the city, a killer.
Come on now.
Like
Let's
him
talk
in,
about
man.
it. Let's talk about it. Jason Tatum, please.
Listen,
Because people be trying to look.
that man is a problem.
He's a problem. And before we got shut down, he was putting up numbers,
His
honey.
numbers was ridiculous.
Numbers.
His numbers was ridiculous.
So all I'm saying is everybody that's saying Boston's not in the running. And here's my thing. People come at me specifically to talk inaccurate facts. That doesn't even make sense. Not inaccurate facts. Inaccurate things, words and phrases. To say that Boston is not in a finals conversation, you're stretching.
Literally. Literally.
Because to not be in the conversation, now will they make it to the finals?
Who knows?
They got to go through Milwaukee. I understand that. However,
I'm scared of Boston, though. I'm scared. Right?
this
year, out of any team, like with Brooklyn not being healthy, honestly, like Boston is a very, very serious threat. And like, of course, I'm a Milwaukee fan. Of course, I think we have good chances. But I'm also a very realistic fan. Like, we still aren't proven. You know, we still have to get there. You know, yes, Giannis is Giannis. Yes, we have a very good team, but we got to get there. You know, we had a chance last year, it didn't happen. So, like you said, for people that, and it's a lot of people, you know, that just they talk ball and they just be talking. Like, what we talking about?
What are we talking? There are people on Twitter who literally come at me just to come at me because y'all know, and y'all know who y'all are, because it'd be the same 3 people all the time, always trying to come at me. Stop. Because I told somebody the other day, I don't care what's going on. I'll never turn my back on Boston, and especially as long as Jason Tatum is on the roster. Y'all have me messed up. We have one of the best duos in the league right now, and somebody gonna tell me different.
Very true. Nah, they up there.
With my name, you know it's spelled incorrectly, and Jason.
You got Kimba. They got a solid little 3-head monster over there, and they're young. Like,
and Gordon Hayward is back in full effect.
Gordon Hayward will really be an interesting piece if he can come back and not be, you know, of course, the star that he was, but you know, he can easily still provide, you know, a double-digit scoring average easily to help out. So
yeah.
My only thing is, you know, with the season, I love that the season is coming back, but I just feel like it's tough because they've done great things with the bubble. I know they've taken every single precaution that they can, but it just all still feels so risky. And then there's certain things with the season. It's like when you look at it, you got Harden and Westbrook with, you know, that had corona. And even if they, you know, of course, get through it and end up playing, it's like there's so many different factors, and we're not really seeing everybody truly at their best. And it's not so much that somebody has an edge. It just takes away from the joy of like seeing a team make a run going into the playoffs. And like, because it's all about momentum. We know the league is all about momentum. So I think that being one is interesting since nobody has the chance to really build momentum, but it's still kind of like that's the beauty of it. But last part on the NBA, who you champion? Who you taking?
Now see, irrational Jalyn is always going to say Boston, no matter what. Our whole starting 5 could be hurt, and I'm saying Boston's winning the championship. That's just, I'm like that with Mizzou. I'm like that with State. I'm like that with the Celtics. That's just that. My rational, let me use my NBA brain. You know, I can never like count out LeBron, bro. Like you just never can.
Look, man, you really can never count that man out.
No.
I say all that to say, I don't know if they beat that other team in LA. I don't.
Look.
Only because if there was, outside of having a super team like Golden State did, if there was ever a team that has been constructed to beat LeBron and AD, it's that team. I mean, you just can't ignore Kawhi, Paul George, Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell. They picked up the Morris twin. Like
The Clippers, my thing about the Clippers is it almost, it's one of those teams that it's like everything has to go right for it to work, because it can either go really, really well or it can go really bad.
That's true.
You think about the pieces that they do have, like Kawhi's always going to go off, but sometimes I think that roster is a little too crowded as far as who's going to need to step up every night, as far as like personalities mean everything on court, chemistry means everything, and I just feel like I need to, because I haven't done this yet, and I need to before the bubble opens up again, is to sit down and look at everybody's rosters, because there's been so many pickups. There have been people saying they're not playing because of family and everything like that. I need to go and really look. But, you know, as far as champion, it's hard because, and I keep seeing people say this is going to be like an asterisk next to this champion. And I think it is, but I don't think it is for the reasons that people are saying it. I think some people are saying there's going to be an asterisk because it's not going to mean as much. I think this one means more than
it means a lot.
Forever going to mean, because you're coming off of, y'all haven't been in the gym together in a long time.
Right.
You got people that are opting out. You bringing in people from, you know, wherever you can find them to try to make a run. So I think there's going to be an asterisk next to this champion, but whoever does end up winning this season, I say they probably won one of the hardest championships ever gonna be.
Yeah. Sure.
So I think it's going to come down to who can get their chemistry right the quickest and who's going to be consistent, because my hope and my prayer is that we don't get into it and people start getting sick.
Yeah, that's honestly my biggest concern. That's the concern for me. But, you know, we hoping for the best. We are. Touch on the WNBA with you though. We've all, you know, heard stories, and we all definitely understand the disparity between, you know, how the NBA is treated, how the WNBA is treated. You know, specifically as a woman, what are your feelings on, you know, what those athletes go through and what more can be done to show them more support?
You know, I think one thing I will say about the WNBA is I think the time that has been away from sports has helped them more, because I've seen more about the WNBA in the past couple months than I've seen ever. I think one thing is this whole notion that, you know, women's basketball is less exciting or less, you know, not as good like
it's a stretch.
It's, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not the truth. And of course you're not getting dunks every 2 seconds, but like the fundamentals behind the WNBA and the way that, you know, I can tell that when I'm watching WNBA, the way that I can tell that the thought process going through a play, you know, like executing, and it's just different. It is different basketball, and that's, you know, that's fine, but it doesn't mean that it's lesser. So I think as the WNBA is just, you know, a reflection of the society that we live in. They're getting less, just like women around the world are getting less. And, you know, the comments that I see about the WNBA and how they should be in the kitchen and blah, 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 like, the minorities are always really loud. And I know that's not a lot of people. I know the WNBA is making huge strides and like being inspirations to young kids across the country or around the world, because it's not just young girls. You know, There are a lot of, you know, young boys that I've been seeing getting like WNBA jerseys for their birthdays and for holidays. So it's like, you know, those women are incredible. And all of the trolls on Twitter that are like, I can take y'all. I would love to see you try to play Skylar Diggins one-on-one, please. Please. I would love to see you try to take on Sophie Cunningham one-on-one, please. Deladon, like, please do not play. Like, y'all are,
But you know, I'm glad you mentioned Elena Deladon because I recently watched her Taylor Rooks Take It There episode, and then I read her Players Tribune article that dropped as of yesterday. So I think the 15th of July. But it's sad that they have to like reading it. I'm like, and of course, you know, you're not gonna know that. And it's not something she wanted public, but there's no reason that she should have to make a decision like that, and she's already going through like all of that and having to do all that just to feel good and feel healthy. And I think the fact that like I agree that there's definitely been strides made, and you see there have been, you know, a good number of NBA players, high profile NBA players at that have shown huge support, you know, for the WNBA. So I feel like the strides are being made, but you know, like you said, you hate the narrative that, you know, women's basketball is lesser or, you know, fundamental or, you know, boring or whatever the case may be. Like girls can hoop. Like you said, when you look at the Sophie Cunningham's, Enrique's, there's so many WNBA players that got game, period. Like, it's not like they game for a woman. You just got game. And, you know, you hate that the narrative is set up like that. But like you say, we know how society is set up, and we just still have a lot of steps to take. But great words from you in the WNBA.
Thanks. Shout out to the WNBA. I have made it a point that I'm going to really get in, because the way that I am about NBA, I want to be about the WNBA, and I will not lie and say that I have just been, you know, WNBA. I really started kind of getting into them more when I got to Mizzou because of Sophie, and I was like, she gonna be in the WNBA. Let me figure out what's going on. Now she is, and she's with, you know, Phoenix or whatever. So, but even being here, like women's basketball here is insanity. So I've had to, you know, spruce up and be ready.
For sure. You should already know what's coming. It's the final question. It's the question I gotta ask everybody that I interview, because it's what we're doing. It's what this is about. So Jalyn Johnson.
Yeah.
What makes you qualified?
What makes me qualified? I'm qualified because I don't let anything stand in my way. I'm qualified because I'm going to be 110% me all the time. I'm very true to who I am as a person, to who I am and who I want to be in my craft. I'm dedicated. And I care. I care about people. I care about athletes. I care about, you know, the impact that I can make on the world from what I can do. I know I'm not going to be like, you know, an inventor, or I'm not going to be a scientist. I'm not going to find the cure for anything. And I'm not saying that sports is like the equivalent of that, but my mark that I can make in the sports world, and my mark that I can make on, you know, people's lives, because sports do mean a lot. And sports, like I said, bring people together, and sports are a morale booster. And if I can have a little piece of history in the sports world in any kind of way, and leave, you know, a legend like a Stuart Scott, you know, or like a Craig Sager, if I can make people feel good in my realm and what I do, then I can, you know, be happy about the legacy that I've left and the life that I've lived. So I'm qualified just because, you know, I'm me, and I'm unapologetically me all the time. And, you know, I just work every day to get better and to become more qualified as I go on through my little journey of life. So,
indeed. And I can co-sign all of that. And I'm speaking all that into existence because it will happen. People will be seeing you on their TV screens very, very soon. But I personally want to thank you, Jalyn. I know I texted you, and you was like, I get a qualified interview? Yes, of course you do. Of course I had to do this. We've known each other too long, and I've seen too much of your journey up close not to use my platform to help you share that. So I just thank you for I thank you for coming.
Y'all follow me.
Yes, your socials will be on here. You know, they gonna get you.
Because follow me for all my little content.
Yes, no, you won't be disappointed.
Thanks.
I'm gonna get out the phone for this girl start promoting God knows what. But anyway, y'all, until the next interview, signing off is your boy, Mr. Qualified, and Jalyn.
And Jalyn.